A very good evening and welcome to Newswatch tonight with me, Tony Omondi, as I give you the latest news making headlines in the country. Thank you so much for joining us on this live broadcast. Our sign language interpreter is Boniface Murithi. Let's begin. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has for the second week running failed to hit its voter listing target as voter apathy persists. From the latest report by the Electoral Commission, IEBC missed its target of registering 3 million new voters in 2 weeks, as they only managed to list 491,968 new voters during that period. As Kennedy Kimani now reports, IEBC has managed to service a total of 49,656 voter transfer requests.
As the enhanced continuous voter registration enters the third week, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has continued to record low voter listing turnout, with the Electoral Commission attributing this to voter apathy. Recent statistics from the IEBC show that only 491,968 new voters have been listed since the registration began 2 weeks ago, making IEBC miss its target by more than 2 million. In Nairobi, IEBC registered 43,137 voters against its target of 366,284, while in Nakuru County, IEBC, which targeted to register 152,692, managed to only register 19,694 people, which accounts for 13%. Hope TV did a spot check in Kibra constituency and found that most of the registration centers had little or no activity happening. One resident, however, got our attention. Kefa Okoyo, also known as Mzee wa Kijiji, was going round the streets urging Kenyans to go and register as voters. Okoyo says that most of the youths in Kibra are jobless and don't see the need to get registered.
Vijana pia turnout yao haiko kabisa. Unaona, sana ile labda kuna ile mentality azini msana anafikiria akikaa kiongoja kuna msana kuja amjenge do ndio achukue kura. Lakini hafai siku hiyo direction. Jumara mopo tumeambiwa vijana ndio viongozi wa kesho. Lakini hatuwezi kuwa viongozi wa kesho kama tuna kura. Juu kura katika election process, kura ndio silaha. Tunasemanga viongozi wabaya sana uchaguliwa na wale wapigaji kura wazuri ambao wachukui kura ama ambao pia wapigi kura. Unaona kitu kama hiyo. So wanaambia tu wasema nze tuchukue hizi kura. Juu leo ukipiga countdown leo siku 16. Leo imebaki siku 15 peke yake kitu ikamilike.
Wilson Werimo, a 21-year-old Kibra resident who is also an eligible voter, says he had no idea about voter registration exercise going on in the country, adding that the electoral body had not done enough voter education drive.
Unajua si kila mtu amesoma, kuna wale hata bado wenye wako illiterate na bado ni age. Kuna wale hawakuwezeshwa kusoma labda juu ya wazazi, but wako na ID na wako huku mtaani, vijana hawana kazi. So unaona kijana mwenye hana kazi yoyote hata atashughulika atasema polling station niende wapi na huko hakuna pesa.
The IEBC office is not connected to the ID issues, and that has been my issue now. I have not registered because of that. The office down there in Huduma Center said me 1 month, and it's 2 weeks now remaining for the registration of the voters to end. And they are saying there are no extension whatsoever this time around. If you have your ID number and they have the system there and you've lost it, why can't they just enter your ID number as you wait for the process in Huduma Center to end? I mean, your ID number shows everything. If you have your ID number, just like the passport number, it shows in the system that you're a registered citizen of this country.
IEBC has awarded a 2.8 billion shillings tender for the supply and delivery of ballot papers and register of voters to a Greek firm by the name Informal Lycos in a framework contract for 3 years. The tender will also include statutory election result declaration forms to be used at the polling stations. Kennedy Kimani, Hope TV Newswatch, Nairobi.
Let's move on. President Uhuru Kenyatta, ODM leader Raila Odinga, and Deputy President William Ruto are expected to meet in Kirinyaga County for the Mashujaa Day celebrations since they last met publicly during this year's Madaraka Day celebrations in Kisumu County. President Kenyatta will come face-to-face with his deputy at a time Ruto has openly criticized Uhuru's pact with ODM leader Raila Odinga as he campaigns for his 2022 presidential bid. As Dickens Levanda reports, President Kenyatta is already in Kirinyaga County and has since asked Mount Kenya residents to wait for his signal before supporting any presidential candidate.
For the first time since Madaraka Day on June 1st this year, President Uhuru Kenyatta will publicly come face to face with his deputy turned political nemesis William Ruto on Wednesday, October 20th. This is after confirmation that DP Ruto will attend this year's Mashujaa Day celebrations at the Wanguru Stadium in Kirinyaga County, a national event that will as well be attended by Ruto's rival, ODM leader Raila Odinga, who has turned to be President Kenyatta's close political friend despite previous rivalry. At an event that is to be graced by Malawi President Lazarus Chakwera, this will be the first time the president will be sharing a podium with the two presidential frontrunners in his Mount Kenya backyard, which has been turned into a political battleground by the duo.
Kiingia State House.
DP Ruto and the former Prime Minister have scaled up their campaigns in the region as the succession race gains momentum and a political might is expected to play out between the two rival camps. Eyes will also be on President Uhuru on whether he will announce his preferred successor during the feat.
Tunataka sasa wananchi wa Mwea wawe wanakuza mpunga twice a year.
President Kenyatta, who is already in Kirinyaga County, has asked residents of the mountain to wait for his signal before backing any presidential aspirant ahead of the 2022 polls. The president has inspected several local projects in Kirinyaga ahead of Wednesday celebrations and also held roadside rallies, asking residents to be patient and not to fall for politicians who are out to deceive them. Kenyatta and Ruto will celebrate and witness their last Mashujaa Day in office on Wednesday, given that both will retire from their positions in August 2022 and are not eligible for election into their current positions. Dickens Luvanda, Hope TV News Watch.
Meanwhile, all is set for the Mashujaa Day celebrations on Wednesday. This is according to Central Regional Commissioner Wilfred Nyagwanga, who said most invited guests come from the county of Kirinyaga. He has noted the major milestones the Jubilee government has achieved in the county, even as central politics continue to heat up.
We are about to witness the celebration of Mashujaa Day tomorrow at the Wanguru Stadium. At the same time, we shall have a luncheon at Keroboya, whereby it is a great pleasure because we are going to host Our Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, who will be the chief guest during tomorrow's celebration. We do also need to, as we are celebrating, let us understand the theme of the celebration. Mashujaa Day, what is the theme of this year? We are talking about inchi yangu, jukumu langu, mimi ni sujaa. Even yourself, you are also sujaas. Apart from the heroes who fought for independence, we also are becoming heroes on your own.
And Malawian President Lazarus Chakwera has arrived in Nairobi for a 3-day state visit to Kenya. The head of state, who is accompanied by First Lady Monica Chakwera, will be the chief guest at this year's Mashujaa Day celebrations at Wanguru Stadium in Kirinyaga County on Wednesday. The president was warmly received at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, JKIA, Tuesday afternoon by RCT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru and Defense CS Eugene Wamalwa. This Thursday, President Chakwera and his delegation will be hosted at State House in Nairobi for bilateral talks. A Kisii court has detained 4 suspects over the killing of 4 elderly women in Marani, Kitutu Chache, Kisii County on allegations of witchcraft. The suspects, Amos Nyakundi, Crispin Ogeto, Peter Ngwenyi and Ronald Onyonka, were taken into custody on Tuesday afternoon as police stepped up the hunt for other suspects. Resident Magistrate Paul Mutai said the 14-day detention would allow conclusion of investigations ahead of full trial. The case will be mentioned on 29th October, even as the suspects undergo a mental assessment. The area leaders have, in the meantime, decried rising cases of lynching in the area, especially to people suspected of witchcraft.
Vijana nilisema labda alizikwa huko kwa barabara wakamchomea kiwa. Mungu alikufa hivyo. Mpaka kwa sasa hatujamuona.
Hao watu hawakusikiza hiyo ndugu yangu, ndugu wa pili, kijana wa mama. Mmoja wao kwa hao watu akakata huyo ndugu yangu panga hapa. Mara mbili akamwangusa chini. Na kuchukua mama mpaka huko kwa kiwanja ya shule. Huyo mama yetu akaanza kuambia, "Msamee, mimi ni mchawi. Sijai kuroga mtu. Huyo mtoto acha niambie, aliniona. Mimi sio mchawi tangu nikuja hapa. Nisamee." Kijana mmoja akashika panga, akamchinja, kakata shingo. Na kuchukua mama na kuchoma huko kwa kiwanja ya shule.
Kutoka tangu sijawahi kuona kama ni mchawi. Ndio anatulea kutoka tangu mpaka saa hii.
Tukafika huko, polisi wakakuja kwa haraka, tulikuwa na magari, tukatawanya hao vijana wakatoka. Kumbe tukienda pande ile wamepanga hapo kwa Nyagonyi primary. Kuna mama wa Chusa walimuendea, tukiwa pande ile ni kama walizucheza akili kidogo. Tukienda huku mahali wamesema, kumbe wengine wamerudi pande hiyo, ndio wakachukua huyo mama bila tumesikia wakamu.
Parents and students of Many Heart Secondary School in Kilifi North Sub-County have demanded the ouster of the school's principal and his deputy over what they say is dismal performance in national examinations and the withdrawal of a lunch program. Speaking in Kilifi, the agitated parents said the board has contributed in running down the school and it's high time they vacate the premise to allow for better management. Alice Diana has this report.
The institution's parents and students are demanding the ouster of the current Board of Management BOM, the school principal and his deputy, accusing them of running down the school. During a chaotic meeting held at the school on Monday, the parents claimed that the principal and his deputy were responsible for the poor results the school has been posting in national examinations.
Mtoto yule ataingia shule asubuhi, ikifika saa 4 amefukuzwa, ameenda nyumbani, aje atafute pesa kwa mzazi. Mzazi ni awe ana pesa. Akiwa hana pesa mzazi, itabidi mtoto aregeshwe tena shule. Akiregeshwa shule anakuja nafukuzwa pamoja na mzazi wake. Yule mtoto kweli atasoma?
Mwalimu huyu ali hapa principal hataki kusikiza mzazi. Mzazi akiingia kidogo akisema huna pesa anasema nenda.
The parents lamented that in the 2020 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education KCSE, the highest main grade the school managed was a C- achieved by only 4 students out of 56 candidates. Only 3 scored a main grade of D+.
Mwaka jana hata C haikutoka. Of which C- and below. Wengi katika grade ukiona majibu ya mtoto anafanya mtihani midogo ikizidi ni E. Na kama kuna mbinu za kuinua watoto kielimu, walimu wako hapa ni wataalamu. Kama ni wataalamu watoe zile mbinu.
But the Board of Management, led by Chairperson Christine Karani, blamed indiscipline among the students as the main cause of poor performances. She accused the parents of contributing immensely to their children's indiscipline.
Hasa changamoto kubwa ni kuwa watoto hawana discipline. Na watoto kupata discipline ndio inaongezea watoto kuwa na performance nzuri. Pili, mambo ya wazazi, hali zao za uwezo wa kulipa fees ziko chini sana. Kwa hivyo wengi wametegemea msaada kutoka kwa wafadhili, hasa kama CDF, ward pia kidogo na wafadhili wachache.
The meeting that was held at the school compound was a theatre of the absurd, a contest between the board and teachers on the one hand and the parents and their children on the other hand. In a turn of events, students spoke disrespectfully to their teachers as their parents cheered them on, an indication that even the parents were not as innocent when it comes to their children's discipline. The parents called for a special audit of the school's books of accounts to establish the cause of deaths amounting to 4 million shillings.
Ingekuwa vizuri serikali ikapafanya auditing hapa shule, kwa sababu tukipata huo msaada kama huo tutajua sisi wazazi, kwa sababu kufikia wakati huu tunasikia vichwa vinatuuma na yale madeni ambayo tumelundikizwa.
Some workers who spoke to journalists said they had not been paid for months because of alleged financial impropriety and called for an audit of the books of accounts, while other parents threatened to withdraw their children from the school.
Tunaomba ikiwezekana bodi ichujwe board, tubadilishwe mwalimu mpya ili tuweze kujimudu katika hali hizi, maana tunaumia kusema kweli.
For Hope TV News Watch, I'm Alice Diana.
The Ministry of Education, in collaboration with stakeholders, has launched a national out-of-school children study as well as Operation Come to School program. The program seeks to get at least 200,000 children of school-going age back to class. This even as a report conducted in 2020 revealed that over 1 million children were out of school. The situation has been compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic and the country's drought situation. Grace Wangoi has the story.
200 children are going to enjoy their right to education after the Ministry of Education, in partnership with UNESCO and UNICEF, launched a program dubbed Operation Come to School, aimed at bringing children of school-going age back to class. The program will target children between the age of 6 and 13 years in 16 counties that have the highest number of children out of school.
As our chief guest,
according to findings released by UNESCO, some of the barriers hindering access to education include nomadic lifestyles, early pregnancies, poverty, early marriages, disability, and long distance to school. With the emergence of COVID-19, the situation has become even direr, with the closure of some schools and the poor economic situation of most parents.
The drought is biting, and yes, children are dropping out of school, unfortunately, and those who had not gone to school for several months because of COVID, there's no way that they think they're going back unless we do something quite urgently and in a determined manner to really support these children and families.
It is important to point out that Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha issued a directive that girls who fall pregnant should be allowed in class after delivering their children. Over 1.5 million children are out of school, indicating how dire the situation is. But where exactly are these children? Findings indicate that the children are mostly from ASL counties, including Baringo, Marsabit, Mandera, Garissa, Wajir, Narok, and Nairobi's informal settlements. These areas have the highest numbers of children who have never received any formal education. The ambitious program, according to Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha, cannot be achieved without the help of guardians and parents who should be at the forefront in taking their children to school.
It is my hope that parents and caregivers will uphold their parental roles to ensure all school-going children will access, transition, and complete education at all levels. It is quite sad from the statistics that have already been provided here that some counties in ourselves are home to high numbers of out-of-school children. I urge all stakeholders to embrace the government's national re-entry guidelines in ensuring all children who are out of school go back to school.
The Ministry of Education will be seeking to provide financial support through cash transfers to vulnerable families, educational supplies and policies to attract learners to schools. Grace Wangoi for Hope TV News Watch.
Right, let's now take a short commercial break on News Watch. We'll be back with more. To stay with Hope TV.
Na Optiven.
Dad! Gari mpya!
Umetoa wapi gari mpya? Optiven wametusort.
Optiven?
Nunua any of our value-added properties ama redeem installment ya property yako. Kwa kila malipo ya 10,000 unapata 1 entry point kwenye draw ya Furahia na Optiven promotion. Airtime kushindaniwa kila siku, holiday kila wiki, shinda ploti na gari kila mwezi, na grand prize ya Mercedes-Benz C180. Ni rahisi, buy ama redeem na ushinde na Furahia na Optiven.
Furahia, ushinde na Optiven.
Welcome back to Newswatch. The National Cohesion and Integration Commission, NCIC, has embarked on a week-long sensitization drive in Nakuru County aimed at creating and cementing peaceful coexistence between members of the public, political actors, as well as government agencies in the run-up to the 2022 general election. This even as politicians continue their campaigns across the country at a time NCIC is fighting hate speech and incitement. Dolly Murigi reports.
As the country gears up for the general elections, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, NCC, has established a fully fledged unit aimed at monitoring and deterring hate speech conversation on various social media platforms.
We are reporting people.
This comes barely 3 months since the Commission embarked on mapping out political violence hotspot in the country using past records to pick out the areas that have been most affected by political violence in the past. According to Kilian Nyambo, the Deputy Director in charge of Civic Education and Advocacy, as political activities continue to escalate in the country, there is increasing need to have all players speak the peace message.
One of the strategies is engagement with the local actors within their respective safe spaces to be able to interrogate their specific contribution towards this, because we appreciate that the Commission alone cannot be able to guarantee peace. But if we work together with different stakeholders, collectively, we can be able to ensure that our forthcoming general elections is conducted in a peaceful, safe and secure environment.
His sentiment echoed by Lesima Michael, the Deputy County Commissioner Nakuru Town West, in understanding of NCC's mandate, especially on what entails hate speech, as well as NCC roadmap to peaceful 2022 general elections.
So we are saying those unfortunate situations that we are used to, or some of us may decide to take, we will deal with them. And currently that's what we are preparing as a government or as a Ministry of Interior. We are preparing to make 2022 to be very peaceful.
The Commission hopes to replicate such meetups across the country, bringing together national government administrative officers comprising the local chiefs, assistant chiefs, Nyumba Kumi initiative officers and other peace actors within the 47 counties.
2022 election must be peaceful. That's the word I am going to choose to use, must.
Dolly Murigi, Hope TV, Newswatch.
Now, a family in Mombasa County is appealing for help to trace their kin who was allegedly arrested by unknown armed men. Led by Mombasa Senator Mohamed Faki, the family is calling upon the security agencies in the county to assist them in tracing the whereabouts of their relative Mohamed Abubakar. Mohamed Abubakar Said, a 22-year-old Umma University student, was picked at gunpoint at around 8:30 p.m. as he was heading to their Ganjoni home. He was reportedly bundled into a car before being driven at high speed.
Kijana mdogo sana, ukimwangalia kwa sura, kijana ni mtulivu sana ambaye anaendelea na maisha yake, amefanya diploma na anaendelea kufanya masomo yake. Yaani si kijana ambaye tunaweza kusema ni mtu ambaye uko kwenye hizi gangs ama ni kijana ambaye katika mambo mabaya. Na tungependa yoyote aliyomchukua Mohamed amrejeshe kwa amani, yani amrejeshe ikiwa yuko salama.
Ikiwa kweli yoyote kati yetu amefanya uhalifu, ziko taratibu na ziko njia za kuhandle hiyo kitu. Lakini hizi habari za kwa kila siku watoto wanatekwa nyara zimekuwa nyingi sana. Zimekuwa nyingi sana, especially kwa upande wetu wa Coast. Na sijui kwa nini Coast hizi mambo ndo yanatokea sana. Sisi tunaomba salama, tunaomba justice kwa nchi yetu na kwa mtu yoyote ambaye atafanya kosa.
Jambo la kusikitisha ni kwamba polisi katika maeneo yetu, yani kituo cha Central Police Station ambacho ni kama kilomita 4 kutoka mahali tukio lilitokea, Makupa Police Station ambapo pia ni kilomita 4 kutoka mahali tukio lilitokea, hawajui chochote kuhusiana na swala hili. Na sisi tunajua katika Mombasa County ama pwani kwa jumla hakuna magenge yanayotumika kuteka watu nyara kiolela. Kwa hivyo moja kwa moja tunajua kwamba hii ni kazi ambayo imefanywa na maafisa wa polisi kupitia vitengo vyao vya usalama.
Let's get to some politics now. Deputy President William Ruto has continued with his bottom-up campaign in Lamu County in a bid to woo voters as the country heads to a general election in 10 months. While addressing supporters, DP Ruto poked holes on ODM leader Raila Odinga's stipend program to youths, saying the country's economy cannot be driven by giving handouts and stipends to the youths, but through a deliberate and exhaustive development plan that will create jobs and generate income to millions in the country.
Kwa unyenyekevu tutembee na naibu wa rais, kwa sababu naibu wa rais ndiye candidate peke yake wa urais ambaye akona agenda. Wale wengine agenda yao hawana.
Sera yetu ni ya bottom up. Tunaanza na wale walio chini, tuwapandishe ngazi ya uchumi ili tuweke Kenya mahali ambapo panapatikana usawa, tuondoe ubaguzi na tuhakikishe ya kwamba hakuna Wakenya wengine wanawachwa nyuma. Na wauliza watu wa hapa Kizingitini, tutakubaliana twende barabara hiyo pamoja? Tunakubaliana? Na vile tulifanya yale mengine yote tumefanya, hii hata na hii tunawaambia leo tuko na mpango ya kuitimiza, ndio tuweze kufukuza umaskini mashinani.
Na sisi tumetembea pia na naibu wa rais, kwa sababu katika wale wote wanasimama tumeona yeye yuko na agenda, na agenda yake tunaipenda. Tumeona wale wengine wakikutana kwa mahoteli wakitafuta agenda. Tumeona wale wengine mpaka wameanza kuitwa na kupewa agenda na kupewa interview. Lakini yeye amesema agenda yake ni mwananchi wa kawaida.
Sisi tumekuja hapa kama Hustler Nation, vuguvugu la kitaifa ambalo limekuja kumaliza ukombozi wa Wakenya. Na sisi kama Hustler Nation tunasema sisi tunaleta ile mageuzi ya kiuchumi bottom up.
Tunataka kusikia mambo ya barabara, tunataka kusikia mambo ya miundo misingi, tunataka kusikia mambo ya afya bora, tunataka kusikia mambo ya kazi kwa vijana. Na mimi nasikia mzee alisema ati akipata urais atapatia vijana shilingi 6,000. Munaamini hiyo story? Hata mtu ya mjengo anakula 600. Wewe upewe 200.
Meanwhile, ODM leader Raila Odinga's tour of the vast Meru County entered the second day, Tuesday, with a focus on the youth. Raila, who made several stopovers to address residents, said the youth agenda will form a critical piece of his administration should he be elected president in 2022. He also said that his government will extend loans to youths to venture into agribusiness.
Waanzilishi wa taifa letu walisema ati adui wetu makubwa ni matatu: ugonjwa, ujinga, umaskini. Sawa, tunataka kupigana na umaskini kwa taifa letu. Tutaanza wizara ya vijana, na vile vile tutakuwa na halmashauri ya mambo ya vijana ya kikatiba, National Youth Commission. Sawa, tuendelea sasa. Tuendelea sasa vijana. Sawa vijana, mnaunga mkono? Tunaunga mkono. Tunataka kuona kama uchumi inaimarishwa katika taifa letu.
Now, Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga has announced a mass COVID-19 vaccination drive in Nyeri County during Mashujaa celebrations on Wednesday this week. Addressing the press on the county's state of COVID-19, Kahiga said 95% of those suffering from COVID-19 in hospitals have not been vaccinated against the virus. He says his government will establish new vaccination centers to reach more people as he rallied Nyeri residents to come out in large numbers and be vaccinated. The county has so far recorded 4,280 COVID-19 cases and 304 deaths since the pandemic struck.
In the last 48 hours, we have not reported any positive COVID case. But currently, as we speak, there are 32 patients admitted in the county, 19 isolation facilities. The breakdown is as follows. Mount Kenya Hospital has 8 patients, Outspan Hospital has 0, Kenyatta National Hospital Othaya has 0, GK Prison Kimongo has 23. Of these, 7 are on supplemental oxygen. This is in comparison to 129 patients admitted 1 month ago, of whom 63 were on supplemental oxygen. In the last 1 month, the county witnessed a drop in COVID-19 infections, positivity rates of between 5 to 10%, as well as decreased COVID-19 admissions. We believe that this is as a result of our current vaccination efforts and improved case management of COVID-19, including increased availability of oxygen at our facilities, coupled with tremendous COVID-19 prevention and enforcement efforts from the County Health Department, County Administration, County residents, national government, and county security teams. Our latest data shows that 95% of patients admitted in our COVID-19 isolation units have not received COVID-19 vaccine.
In all, the country has recorded 125 new COVID-19 cases from a sample size of 5,372 tested in the last 24 hours. The positivity rate is now at 2.3%, with total confirmed positive cases rising to 252,199. The Ministry of Health has also announced that 230 patients have recovered from COVID-19, bringing the total recoveries in the country to 245,577. At the same time, 9 patients have succumbed to the disease, raising the cumulative fatalities to 5,233. In terms of admissions, a total of 586 patients are admitted in various health facilities countrywide, while 1,509 are under home-based isolation and care program. 33 patients are in the intensive care unit, ICU. Let's now look at what is happening internationally. Burundi has rolled out its first COVID-19 vaccines months after most African countries. The latest steps in the East African nations shift towards a more active approach to containing the pandemic. The inoculation drive has been regarded widely as a late strategy by countries in Africa, in a continent where less than 5% of people are fully vaccinated. The launch leaves just Eritrea as the only African country yet to start vaccinating its people. Burundi's campaign got underway in the capital, Bujumbura, to a little fanfare. Reportedly, no government officials were present. Burundi, with a population of about 11.9 million people, has reported just 14 COVID-19 deaths and more than 19,300 positive cases, but the country has only rarely and sporadically provided data. The spread of COVID-19 among children in England is fueling a rise in cases nationally and causing concern among some scientists that vaccines are being rolled out in schools too slowly, risking the welfare of children and adults. COVID-19 cases in Britain as a whole are much higher than in other European countries and are rising. According to Reuters on Friday, one survey suggested that prevalence was at its highest level since January, with 8% of secondary school children infected. Vaccination rates for the age group in England are lagging those in many European countries and even Scotland, with some scientists having attributed to mixed messaging around shots for children, a later start, and inflexibility with the rollout. Last month, Britain's chief medical officers recommended that children aged 12 to 15 should be offered a COVID-19 vaccine to help reduce disruption to their education. Right, Newswatch takes another short break. Business and sports news is coming up next.
Join us every Sunday for unlimited, uplifting, powerful worship only on Extended Worship.
Searching for answers far and wide, but I know they're all searching for it.
Furahia na Optiven.
Dad, gari mpya!
Umetoa wapi gari mpya?
Optiven wametusort.
Optiven?
Nunua any of our value-added properties ama redeem installment ya property yako. Kwa kila malipo ya 10,000 unapata 1 entry point kwenye draw ya Furahia na Optiven promotion. Airtime kushindaniwa kila siku, holiday kila wiki, shinda ploti na gari kila mwezi, na grand prize ya Mercedes-Benz C180. Ni rahisi, buy ama redeem na ushinde na Furahia na Optiven.
Let's continue with business news. Restaurant operators in the country have asked President Uhuru Kenyatta to consider lifting the curfew and allow them operate longer to allow the revival of the economy, already slowed down by the pandemic. At a press briefing in Nairobi, members of the Pubs, Entertainment and Restaurants Association of Kenya, PERAC, said the entertainment sector has been left out as others benefit from the relaxation of the laws to limit the spread of the pandemic. PERAC Nairobi chapter chairman Frank Mbogo said players in this sector are convinced that it's time the government lifts the curfew and other restrictions that have since March 2020 resulted in the loss of livelihoods in the hard-hit sector.
The latest improvement came with the development of health and safety protocols by the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, which have enabled our sector to operate until 9 p.m. We are, however, increasingly convinced that the time has come to lift all the restrictions. The action of our leaders and elected representatives suggests the protocols rolled out to limit spread of COVID-19 are not necessary. Over the past month, presidential candidates have been holding rallies, meetings across the country to popularize themselves ahead of the elections. It is impunity of the highest order when the authorities allow them to embark on this large-scale venture, yet Kenyans looking to make an honest living cannot be allowed to keep their businesses open.
I feel that it's time that we should open this economy. And because all COVID protocols we have followed, the spacing, the social distance, wearing masks, washing, or putting hand washes outside our premises, I think it's very unfair that our business is only the one that has been targeted to be closing down. And I want to address His Excellency the President. We thank that we can see so many mandaleos you are doing in the country. The roads are being done, there are dams that are being done, but for us, as we go tomorrow to Mashujaa, we need you to give us this gift of opening up the economy. In fact, this is the year that I've seen us as hotel industry people going to schools to beg the headmasters for us to pay half school fees, which is something we have never done in our life. So, Bwana President, tafadhali kesho 20th, give us this present, tupatie hizo ahadi. We need to open up this economy. We are not talking about adding hours. Lift the curfew and let us continue with our business as we used to.
Innovations in sustainable finance and digital transformation, alongside important initiatives in transparency and regulation, will help reinvigorate Africa's financial markets as they recover from the impact of COVID-19. This is according to research in the latest African Financial Markets Index from ABSA and OMFIF. The research states that out of 23 countries in the index, 19 scored lower than last year. This decline reflects more difficult market conditions, methodological changes, and the inclusion of environmental, social, and governance indicators in the index. South Africa, Mauritius, and Nigeria maintained their lead in the index, though with scores slipping in 2021 for all the three.
This year marks the 5th year since we embarked on this worthwhile journey of producing the AFME report in partnership with the Official Monetary and Financial Institutions Forum, also known as OMFIF. This year's report comes at a time when the economic recovery of the continent remains fragile, as the repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic continue to be a major challenge for growth. In addition, many of the countries across the continent are racing to vaccinate a majority of their populations, which will allow for the partial to full reopening of their economies. This expectation gives us great hope and optimism that most African countries will experience an economic rebound supported by dynamic fiscal policies, which cause a ripple effect of strong market performances and structural development.
And so we're looking at how can we bring in more liquidity in the market through instruments like day trading, where you can buy and sell a stock intraday. We're looking at how can we educate them more around derivatives, which allows you to trade and get value real time. That should give you more momentum. Coming up with platforms and gamifying trading.
And to some sports news now, the national women's soccer team, Harambee Starlets, have continued to intensify their preparation for the 2022 Africa Women Cup of Nations qualifier match against South Sudan Bright Starlets, which is slated for tomorrow, with a return leg slated for this weekend. Both games will be staged at Nyayo Stadium after the Bright Starlets opted to host their return leg in Nairobi rather than Juba, South Sudan. The team flew straight from South Africa, where they participated in this year's COSAFA Championships, to Nairobi, where they have been camping for the past 9 days. The winner of the two-legged tie will proceed to the next round of the qualifiers for the 2022 Africa Women's Nation Cup finals in Morocco. A top college football coach in the United States, Nick Rolovich, has been fired for refusing to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Washington State University sacked Nick Rolovich, reportedly its highest paid employee, and 4 of his assistants for failing to meet a vaccine mandate. The mandate states that all state workers in Washington have to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 or lose their jobs. Rolovich, 42, who earned $3.1 million a year, had applied for a religious exemption from the mandate. But WSU's Director of Athletics, Pat Chun, said the exemption had been rejected. Rolovich's sacking marks the culmination of a 3-month showdown between the coach and Washington's Democratic Governor, Jay Inslee. Right, and that story wraps up our bulletin tonight on Newswatch. Thank you so much for always staying with us. I'm Tony Omondi, and our sign language interpreter has been Boniface Murithi. Have a good night and happy Mashujaa Day tomorrow.